Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Centa's workshop for B.Ed students and B.Ed colleges. This is actually part of a series that we have been doing for quite some time now called Cent Talks. It is the 124th workshop in the series, but what's special is that this workshop is dedicated for student teachers. So, for people who are in the middle of teacher education programs, primarily the B.Ed in India, but also the B.L.Ed and various other programs. So, it's dedicated to student teachers and meant to be a workshop about careers and how you can enter this profession in an impactful manner. So I would love to see on the chat the locations or colleges that many of you are from. I can see that there are existing teachers from various schools, and you're most welcome too. And love to know if you're from a particular B.Ed college, from any particular location. Welcome to everyone. Yeah, I see somebody from KG Somaya College in Mumbai. Hello, Sadaf. I see a few student teachers from Egypt and Nigeria. Welcome to you. Okay, I think in most of the other cases, I can see the good evening, but I cannot see where you're from. So I'll wait for people to put in their look. Okay, New Horizon College in Bangalore, Kapila Khandwala College in Mumbai, DBMS College of Education, Shikha, welcome. Wonderful. So great to have you all, and you can see each other also on the chat. Let me start by welcoming the very special panel that we have for today evening. Uh, and we really think we are lucky that we could bring three such people together for half an hour, 45 minutes of their time, which is extremely precious. So starting Sorry, maybe Piyush, we can just get back to the panel for a minute while we introduce them, and then we'll go to any slides. Yeah. So starting with Ankur Jain. Ankur is the CEO of Fiji Global Schools. And I think most of you might have heard of Fiji, which is a leader in the competitive examination space in India. Exams like IIT JEE and NEET and so on. Fiji was established in 1992. Ankur is now managing partner of Fiji Limited and mentor of Fiji Global School, which is a set of schools started now in the southern part of India with, I believe, ambitions to provide global holistic education and all around excellence to students. Ankur himself we have another connect. He is also my fellow alumnus from IIT Delhi, and we are reconnecting after a very long time. So welcome, Ankur. Thank you so much. I know you are continuously traveling, and we were lucky to catch you in a slot when you are in Chennai, but haven't yet reached office, I believe, due to the rains in Chennai. So welcome, and thank you for making it.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. Thank you for inviting me.
And moving in alphabetical order to Bhavin. Bhavin is the CEO of Education World. Again, most of you would be aware of Education World, which is India's leading education sector magazine. Bhavin started with Education World in 1999 as part of the founding team, and he wanted to make education the number one item on the national agenda through public pressure. So that is his stated mission. And Education World, of course, conducts the annual India School Rankings, as many of you might be aware, also publishes Parents World, a parenting magazine, and various education-related books. Bhavin himself has been very widely recognized for his contributions to the sector. And Education World as a magazine has received several awards, including being India's #1 comprehensive education portal and so on. So with that, we'll move to our third guest for the day, Matthew James, or Matt James, who is the Chief Officer of Operational Transformation and Public-Private Partnerships at GEMS Education, joining us from Abu Dhabi today. Matt has joined GEMS recently, about a year back, but prior to that, has been in large scale operational transformation, business building roles for more than 20 years, the latest one being as a partner with Deloitte. And GEMS, again, is a group that I'm sure everyone here has heard about. Founded in 1959, GEMS started out with a single school, and it has grown to become the largest K-12 private education provider in the world, and is across 6 regions globally. So thank you very much, Matt, for being with us here.
Thank you, Ramya. Lovely to be speaking with you all today. Thank you.
Great. And while I was introducing the participants, I can see that many of you have introduced yourselves. I won't be able to read all the names, but I'm going to very quickly read out some of them. So we have someone from Alok Kumar Yadav from Army Institute of Education, Bashika Anand from Modern PG College, Lucknow, Priya from City Montessori School, Lucknow, and yes, school teachers are also welcome. We have someone called Umang from Sharda University doing his B.Ed, somebody from Reliance Foundation School in Vadodara, Lakshmi Chand Patwari College of Education, and several people I see from KJ Somaya, again, Pillai College of Education in Mumbai. Yeah, so as I said, won't be able to read out all of them, but I can see, in a very quick glance, that we are already at probably 12 to 13 states across India, as well as a few people from Nigeria, Egypt, and a couple of other countries. So wonderful to have you all here. So today's workshop, as I said, is focused on careers in teaching, and it is meant to try and provide you as student teachers with some very practical inputs as you try to enter your careers, and as you try to possibly land a job with a leading school group or a leading education organization. So before we come to the panel, I'm just going to take the liberty to use 3 or 4 slides to set the context, and Piyush will just request you to get the slides on screen. Yeah. Okay. Very quickly about Centa, Center for Teacher Accreditation. We are a teacher certification and teacher development company. 3 parts of our work: certification, careers, and learning. And we run what is called the My Centa Teachers Community, and now cater to more than 500,000 teachers across 80,000 odd schools, and about 6,000 locations across India, and a few locations outside India. Uh, Coming to today's workshop, when you look at who are some of the employers in the education sector, I think the automatic name that comes to all our, or automatic category that comes to all our minds is schools. And Piyush, if we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So, schools is an automatic category that comes to all our minds. But as many of you must be noticing, there are now also many other forms of employment in the education sector. And you can very quickly see on the next slide that the kinds of employers include edtech companies, preschools, colleges, coaching centers, etc. In addition to, of course, private and government schools, which remain the majority in the sector. The other thing that's also shaping up gradually in this sector is entrepreneurship, where we are increasingly finding a lot of teachers getting into entrepreneurial roles in teaching itself or in other avenues. And which brings me to the kinds of roles in this sector. So these are some of the types of employers to keep in mind. And here you can see some of the types of roles in this sector. Teaching, no doubt, remains the most predominant role, but you increasingly also see roles like curriculum and instructional designer, textbook author, teacher coach, freelance writer, assessment designer, admissions counselor. So, wide range of other roles that one could be pursuing in this sector. Again, what these roles also tell you as a B.Ed student is that this can be a very interesting and diverse career path. So earlier, when we thought of teaching, by and large, it would involve remaining a teacher for 30 years or so, and a lot of people continue to choose that path today. But there are also some of these alternatives that people get into at different stages of their careers. There are also many employers where you get an opportunity to spend a part of your time on curriculum design or assessment design, etc. So all in all, it's a profession and a career that is becoming more and more interesting, with many different kinds of employers, many different kinds of roles. And if you we also wanted to go through a little bit about the process by which many of these employers bring teachers on board. But instead of going through that right now, I want to uh, quickly do a simple poll with all of you as the audience. And let me request everyone to go to www.menti.com, www.menti.com. So if you have another device, like a different mobile or something, or on the same device in a different tab, you can go to www.menti.com and enter 59474610 as the code. 59474610. So can I get a few yeses from people if you've been able to go to www.menti.com and use the code 59474610? Okay, we have started getting the votes in. So question is, as a B.Ed student or as B.Ed colleges, what challenges do you face in placement? We have put in 4 options. There could be others. Insufficient information on what employers are looking for, not having the right practical skills for joining a good school, resume building issues, so not sure what to put in your resume, how to make it impressive, or too many applicants for each job. Okay, we'll not wait for everyone to vote. We'll wait till we reach about 50-60 votes maybe. Okay, once again, for those who could not enter, www.menti.com, and the code is 59474610. Great. So, I think, the trends are emerging. So many of you seem to think there are too many applicants for a job. I think it'll be interesting to hear from Ankur and Matt what they feel about this when we get to the panel. Many of you also seem to feel there is insufficient information on what employers are looking for, and we definitely hope to address that quite strongly today. And and then of course there are a few of you who are talking about not having the right skill set or not sure how to build your resume in the right manner. And again, towards the end of today's workshop, we also have a small session on resume building by one of my colleagues. So let me with that request my colleague to put our panel back on the stage so that we can start the conversation. This was just to get everyone, to be attentive and engaged. So let's get to the panel discussion. Yeah, I think let's just have the panel. They are here. Yeah. Okay. So thank you again, Matt, Bhavin, Ankur, for joining us today. I think you're seeing some of the energy in the group, and this is clearly a set of B.Ed colleges keen and B.Ed students keen to start their career on a positive trajectory. And I'm going to open with a fairly broad question to say, and this is particularly to Ankur and Matt, as leading employers of B.Ed students and other experienced teachers, what do you look for when teachers join you? And either of you, Matt, you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Ramya. And just before I answer the question, I just want to kind of go back to the point that you raised, Ramya, about the diversity of the profession these days. And I think that's a really, really interesting point for the teaching profession globally, but actually in India as well. More and more, we are developing pathways for teachers that range between a traditional classroom-based to school leadership approach, but also, as you rightly said, we recruit into our education technology businesses. We recruit into our teacher training business. I think that's a really interesting point for new graduates entering the teaching profession globally. The way to think about the profession is very different to certainly our generation and my parents' generation, who are also teachers, about the profession. Things are changing, and I think that's really interesting. So when we look for candidates to come into our organization, we're really looking at a broader set of skill sets kind of going forward. So we at GEMS, we employ around 8,500 teachers globally. So we've built up a very robust understanding of who to recruit and how to recruit. And fundamentally, our approach is that we raise the standards of our recruitment because we recognize that the quality teachers that we bring into our organization has an exponential effect on the student experience. But in terms of answering a question, Rami, about what do we look for, obviously there's a very important focus on competencies and the traditional competencies around teaching, about instructional practice, leadership and management, managing oneself. I mean, there's a whole load of important competencies that we look for that, if you're a B.Ed graduate, I mean, these will be the competencies that you'll be very familiar with. But actually, we look above and beyond the competency model, the traditional competencies that we expect of our teachers. One of the things that we absolutely focus on and is non-negotiable is a passion for teaching and a passion for teaching students. And we developed in our interview process ways and techniques of understanding somebody's motivations and passion. So the passion for teaching is something that we really look for in all of our teachers, particularly our new teachers entering the group. The second one is around an understanding of the holistic nature of education. So what I mean by that is thinking about the role you as teachers have and the role that education has in society and the broader environment around the student. So we often look to develop understanding in our teachers and assess this at interview stage around, the ideas on parental engagement. How can teachers support the increased engagement of parents in the classroom and their children's education? The second is well-being, for example. How aware are our new teachers that we're interviewing? How aware are they of the well-being challenge that we're all facing post-pandemic on our students? What hints and tips and techniques does the teacher use in the classroom to support children's well-being? So there's a holistic view that we take when we're onboarding new teachers into our schools, and the last one really is equally important, which is around framing education in the 21st century. So when you graduate from a B.Ed, there are core competencies, obviously, which is very, very important. But a lot of our current teachers spend time thinking about how what they're teaching in the classroom is being framed in the context of the 21st century. So how can we bring to life the education, the learning that we provide to our students, and frame that in the future that makes it more relevant for the student? So we do a lot of thinking and work with our teachers around 21st century skills. How do you embed those skills in our traditional learning within the classroom? And as part of the interview process, these are kind of the topics that we're expecting our teachers to bring to the interview process, and for us to understand their perspectives on these different areas. Sorry, Rabbi, that was quite a long answer to quite a short question. Apologies.
No, that was a great start, Matt, and lots of things to think about over there. I'm going to come back to you with respect to your Indian teacher recruiting and observations. But before that, let me ask Ankur, what are some of the things that you as an employer look for at Fiji Global?
Thank you, Rameji. See, first of all, I want to quickly touch the point which your poll was talking about too many applications. Now, one point which everyone should know, that getting a job is your priority. But simultaneously, for any school or education institute, it's an equally important priority to get teachers of their kind. So it is true that so many applications comes, but simultaneously, most those applications do not meet the specific requirement. So need not be worried about too many applications coming. And good people are always in demand, whatever the sector is, especially the school education. Good teachers are always in demand. Now, to the very specific question, that what is it we look into? Teachers fall into different age group line or the education line, like teacher for kindergarten, teacher for primary, teacher for secondary, and teacher for senior secondary. Now, different teachers would have different requirements. You need different skills to look after the children of a lower age comparison to senior age. When you're teaching children in secondary and senior secondary, subject matter expertise is definitely the number one parameter which comes to the interviewer's mind. Then the next important parameter is the ability to communicate. Now, ability to communicate with the students, to be able to motivate them. It's very important in education that you keep your children motivated and encouraged. Because if the children are encouraged, learning would happen whatever way. Even if you are unable to give them very specific subject set of knowledge, today Google is available, internet is available, knowledge can be searched from multiple different ways. But what is required is a good teacher who can motivate children. My 2 words to all the teachers would be that be honest. First of all, you should know that what kind of a teacher you are. Mention very clearly in the CV. You were also talking about the point, like, what to mention in the CV and what to not to mention. Be very honest. Just mention what you truly are, so that the process becomes shorter for you, and the selection process for the interview also becomes shorter. I hope I answered your question, Ramesh.
Yeah, no, I think that that gives a lot of different sort of nuggets of context, and I just want to ask you one quick follow up question from someone in the audience called M Akbar 59. How do we show these skills to school recruiters? And I'm asking you this follow-up question, Ankur, because you specifically said be careful what you are writing or not writing in your resume. So what are the kinds of things one should be looking for, or one should be trying to showcase?
See, first of all, be very specific to the requirement. Uh, Understand the job description very properly. What kind of a teacher any institution or school is looking at? Is it a primary teacher, senior teacher, secondary teacher, sports teacher, or a language and communication teacher? Number one. Second is to show your skills. The most simplest way is to honestly represent into CVs. But today there can be even better ways. For example, if you're a communication teacher or even a subject matter teacher and you want to demonstrate something, you can record a video, put it into a YouTube private channel, make a link of it, show it in terms of a QR code, so that the person who is going through your CV can quickly understand and understand your expertise. So, in terms of representation, my conclusive answer would be mention it clearly in the simple words in your CV what you know, what you don't know, what you are, what you not are. And if you have some very special skills which you want to talk about, you can record a audio, video, and post it into any public forum, Google Drive, OneDrive, and then either provide the link of it or a QR code, or simple link is also okay.
Very interesting ideas, Ankur. And so, more the specificity and more the sort of tuning in with the job play, and that makes a big difference. Great. Let me ask Bhavin, as someone who's seeing the entire sector in some ways. You're seeing schools, you're seeing B.Ed colleges, you are seeing the general open market of recruiting. What is your sense of how much schools are focusing on B.Ed colleges themselves for recruiting compared to general open market recruiting? And what can a B.Ed college student look forward to?
Thanks, Ramya, for this question. And before that, I want to congratulate to each and every student teacher who has chosen to be a teacher. And only one line of advice would be that be a serious teacher. Okay, because typically, as a trend in India, which was been known that if you don't get into any of the stream, you get into teaching. But I'm happy that at the time that this webinar is happening, and to the fellow students who have chosen this as a profession, I want to congratulate, encourage that they are the future builder of this nation. They are. It's one of the very serious profession that they are getting into, and please take away from their mind that you can't do anything or you can't be an engineer, doctor. This qualification that you are going to get, it's one of the highest qualification which I want to term it for the nation, because you are the only community which is going to build the future of the nation. So on that note, I would like to congratulate everyone. And to the question that you have asked me, saying what's the trend which is preferred, I want to divide this answer into two parts. Number one, as far as the private education is concerned, and particularly in private education where K-12 education, which is the largest recruiter and which is also the largest churner of more than 50% of the school going population comes from private educators. The trend is more towards like an experienced teacher. Okay, and that's the thing that you're going to see typically in a newspaper or any of the media platform or at Naukri.com. Everyone is going to ask for saying a subject matter expert having 2 years, 5 years experience, and with ABC skill set, they want to go for it. So typically, when you look at from the angle of the recruitment from a private educator or a private schools are concerned, they would want more going towards the experienced teachers, or probably if at all they go to the B.Ed recruitment, they would largely go with a very, very junior level or a support level where they just want to have an additional teacher in the classroom who could be trained further. So typically, unlike in the different sectoral language, it would be creating bench strength first to get these B.Ed students in it, train them for a couple of years, and then get on to the mainstream. On the other side of the coin, I think so. all the fellow students who are going to be teacher, it's very important to read the new education policy, because in the NEP, it's very, very clearly stated in point number 15 or the clause 15, where Chief Justice J.S. Verma is already claiming in his Supreme Court 2012 statement, and that's what I wanted to say, that more than the teacher education institute, which are more than 10,000 institutes, they are just degree distribution institutes, which typically in this sector, what has happened is, to get onto government institute, you just need a degree, because this sector is very much regulated by way of what qualification you hold. It's not about what skills you have. So typically what happens is the so-called bachelor's of education is an entry for getting into the teaching profession. And moreover, in the government sector, this becomes so important that if you've just got a degree, you get XYZ pay commission and you come in. And that's the reason, if you're a serious teacher, the trend towards government would be more degree oriented, and towards the trend which is on the private side, which would be more experience, skill based education, because they are accountable, they are answerable, they have to answer to the parents, they have to produce results, and this is where they would be going more towards the experienced teachers.
Got it. So, and which brings me to a question from the audience, and the name I see on YouTube is Dream Catchers. Schools ask for experience, but if they are not providing that experience upfront, how does one get that experience? So, any advice on what students can do towards this?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing, Rami, I think so. All, unlike in engineering, medical, or any of the skill-based programs, it's very, very important. What we say is that industry academia connect. Okay, so similarly over here in a B.Ed college, I don't know why schools or colleges have not reached out to their specific requirement, unlike a software industry would reach out to a college and would give the trends which are there. I haven't heard that a school which is currently, we are in a hybrid environment, we are in a blended learning, but none of the schools would have taken a lead, or a B.Ed college where students are studying, they would have taken a lead, gone to the industry, got their needs and incorporated in their final years or on their years when they are doing their bachelor's, and start inculcating the habits that the industry needs. And that's very, very important. If that happens, I'll tell you, India needs more than 11.6 lakh teachers, and there are more than 1.2 million schools which are still run on a single teacher base. It's such a humongous turnaround for a country like India, that what we call it as a mass recruiter. Education is one of the biggest mass recruiter rather than any other sector. And this connect between the so-called academia, that is industry, and the students, has to happen now. You can't wait more, because everyone needs good teacher, and that's where the future is lying. This is only one bridge which I would urge each and every college and students to appeal. Be proactive, go forward, and go meet education institutes, because they need you actually. Why they, what Mr. Ankur Jain and your polling results were, there are too many applicants. Frankly speaking, it's like a junk box. It's going only in one direction. You need, every institute needs teacher. So if you spread out yourself, make yourself access, and make this end meet, I think so it's a brilliant profession that everyone would enjoy.
And I'm very glad you said that, Bhavin, because very interestingly, I mean, just as an aside, so we run this postgraduate certificate program, which is an online PGCP. And we've actually found schools from across the country who are willing to provide internship locally while the program is online. And that becomes a very practical way to bridge that difference. Interestingly, we have now started working with some of the B.Ed colleges to bring elements of this into the B.Ed program itself. So it's very interesting that you say this, and could not agree more about the need for that connect between industry, or here schools, and academia. So Totally agree. Let me ask Matt about international recruiting, and I'll also weave in a question from Suraj or Suraj. Uh, so when you recruit teachers from India, Matt, and I'm particularly talking about India now, which is majority of our audience. When you recruit teachers from India, what are some specific challenges that you come across? And I'm not referring so much to regulatory challenges in the Middle East or elsewhere, because the B.Ed students in India cannot do much about that. But challenges with respect to their own competencies, demeanor in interviews, or any other things that you would see. And Suraj's question in that context is are candidates with an international diploma like TEFT or TESOL and a Centa certification, but without a B.Ed, likely to get international opportunities? And that, of course, might get into the regulatory domain. But let me ask you a bit broadly about international recruiting.
Thank you, Ramya, and thank you, Suresh, for the question. Yeah. So we do significant amounts of recruiting from India, particularly into the Middle East region, where we have a large concentration of Indian curriculum schools. The thing that we look for as part of the interview process are kind of the things that we've all talked about. It's not necessarily about a certification all the time and competency evidence that you are a competent teacher. That's kind of a given, particularly if you have a B.Ed. The things that we look for are, what are the levels of internships that you've done? What other curriculum, what other CV type boosting activities have you achieved? One of the things that we find in recruiting internationally is there are often different expectations from students and parents depending on where you are in the world. There are some basic cultural differences. So in terms of being successful in an international environment, it's really important that we go back to things that I mentioned at the start of the call. We want to see the clear passion that you have as part of the interview process. We want to understand your perspective on things, have a point of view. Teaching, as I say, is a global profession. So, you need to expand your horizons to think about teaching and learning from around the world and bring those ideas to the table as part of the interview process. So for me, it's more than just the competency and the accreditation and the qualifications. It's the above and beyond that you need to bring to the table in the interview process as part of an international opportunity. It's thinking globally. It's understanding the trends globally in teaching and learning. What are some of the big disruptors that are changing our profession, for example? It's those kind of points of view that we're looking for as part of the international recruitment.
And Matt, where do qualifications like your IELTS and TOEFL and so on come in? How much of a role do they play if there are students who want to go international?
Of course, and those things are really, really relevant. And those candidates who invest in their qualifications and learning, particularly with an international sense, tend to be more recognizable and more successful as part of the process. But I just want to say, Ramya, that there's also above and beyond that. It's also about the individual's perspective on teaching that we want to see. We want to see the passion. One of the misconceptions that we have is that international school groups only recruit experienced teachers. That's not the case. Actually, one of our strategies is to recruit brand new teachers to the market and help develop them to be successful within our own schools. So to get into that process, it is about having some of those international qualifications, Ramya, but it's also about thinking differently and thinking globally and thinking internationally as well.
Yeah, no, wonderful, Matt. And in fact, you're reminding me of this B.Ed student from Kapila Khandwala College a couple of years back who got an offer from GEMS Group in UAE. And I distinctly remember that moment actually, where when she got the offer from GEMS. So I can fully relate to what you're saying. That yes, there are groups that look at this. Um,
Thank you.
so I see a number of other questions in the audience, and I'm going to take a few of them. But before that, I have one quick question for Ankur in follow up to the discussion that we've been having, Ankur, on what schools look for. So, in addition to what Bhavin and Matt said, any specific advice for B.Ed students on what they should do with respect to building these competencies that employers in general look for?
Yeah, Rameji, actually, I wanted to myself, join a couple of wires. Um, as Mr. Bhavin said, that mostly the B.Ed colleges are kind of degree providers, and this is true. When we recruit teachers, we get hundreds and thousands of applications where B.Ed is there, but skills are not there. So the reason there's a very important question which is on discussion is that schools need experience, and if they will not recruit freshers, then where the experience will come from? So now this is a question which I feel needs to be deeply understood. Why schools do require an experience? If I'm a recruiter and I'm recruiting for my school, honestly speaking, I don't require experience for that matter. But the thing is, the skills which are required, majority, I would not say all, majority of people don't gain while doing their graduation or B.Ed. That's the reason when we get freshers, they don't have the required skills. And in order to ensure that we get those skills, we have to insist that you need to be experienced. So, in case those skills which are required either can be developed when the teachers are doing B.Ed or doing their graduation in the subject matter, if those skills are present, I'm sure any school would be happy to recruit freshers. In fact, if I have two candidates in front of me of equal skills, a fresher and an experienced one, probably I would go for a fresher because there's always an advantage with fresher candidates that you can mold them according to the philosophy or the ideology of your school. An experienced teacher coming from outside would not have that, and that would require even more time to go for. You need not worry about your fresher and experience. Just make sure that you acquire those skills which are required for teaching.
Great. No, that's very helpful, Ankur, and very encouraging for the audience here. Uh, I also want to just quickly respond to a couple of the questions. So there are, of course, certain themes which we will not be able to cover here today. So there is a theme going on about pay scales in private and government schools. And we would love to have a separate discussion on that, but not going to be part of the scope today. There is another discussion about why, whether B.Ed is necessary and whether B.Ed colleges are giving the right kind of learning or not to students. Again, we may not get into the system level today, but the question for you as an individual student is, now that you are hearing what employers are talking about, or what somebody like Bhavin from the sector is talking about, and hearing about what skills are needed, what could be all the different ways to build those skills? So your college is, of course, one part of it, but as all of us who went to college in whichever field can tell you, college is not the only part of building your skills in any field. And therefore, how do you build your skills after understanding what they are, and be able to bring in what employers are looking for? So I don't think we can change, or discuss how B.Ed colleges should do this differently. but let's talk about what you can do as a B.Ed student. There are also a couple of questions around how to make your resume more powerful. I will just mention that my colleague Purvi is going to do a small segment on resume writing soon after we finish the panel. But before that, and since I think both Matt and Ankur talked about this a little bit, I want to go back to Bhavin for a minute on this question. And as a media person focused so much on communication in general, it may not be on resume writing, but communication in general. What is your advice on resume writing? I'm sure you have something interesting to say there.
Ramya, it's very important that resume is all about expressing who you are and what you would want to do. But before that, the inculcation of that liking of your subject and the work that you're doing, it's very important that in student life, and what Matt continuously was talking about to create that passion. See, it's very important that you also get an environment to create that passion, and the knowledge that you are gathering is holistic and all round. And that's the reason, again, I want to bring attention to all the students and our fellow panelists on the NEP. The NEP 15.4 clause really talks about that every teacher education institute has to be now multidisciplinary. A teacher is not only going to be teaching or learning only a certain set of knowledge. Teacher has to be all round holistically developed. So maybe the leadership skill, maybe the digital pedagogies, maybe the hybrid learning, maybe the psychology part, maybe the management part. These are various aspects that what Matt was talking about, the 21st century learner that they're going to deal with, the 21st century edupreneurs who are going to invest into this business, what they are wanting to have these teachers be. We have a very hierarchical approach. Ramya, it's very important when you know that in the Busy Bees and the Asian International College that we were dealing in Singapore, unlike in India, the environment is more senior the teacher. That's how the pay packages go about. And unlike in Singapore, or unlike in the global practices, more professional development or more you add on your knowledge to your CV. That's how your pay packages or the appraisals go about. It's very, very important that apart from a secure job that is a teaching or a banking, go 9 to 5, there's a bell that is ringing in, and then you hop onto a bus and then you are a homemaker. You have to just understand it is to me, I was giving this advice to many of the education institute that unlike on a windshield or a car, you have a doctor and you respect them. The first label that we should print is TR, which is teacher, and everyone should be first taking pride themselves amongst themselves that they're a teacher. Unless that is not coming in, I'll tell you, whatever resume that you're building in or whatever you are going to write in, it's just going to be like a lip service to a job. You go hunt for 100, get one, settle in, and life moves on. That shouldn't be, you can't settle in less unless and until it's within you. So you know, to inculcate now, it's like a player who's looking at to play for India or to that country, whichever they want to present. That passion has to inculcate much, much before. Okay, but from the education institute, it can't be that okay, you can't make it anywhere, and you have just chosen a teaching job, so you're going to get some security somewhere. You're going to work it. That has to end, and that only is going to reflect in the resume that you're going to build in. I'm not going to recommend saying, hey, these are the mantras, and this is how your font should be, and this is how express it the way Matt was telling, express your passion. I mean, I know that this is highly cliched in this context, but that real sense has to be coming out, and that inculcation has to be much, much early that the realization should kick in.
Yeah, and I would say, Bhavan, that what you said, in many ways, also indirectly addresses two of the questions. One from Anjali on how do you overcome nervousness in interviews, and one from Rahuf on does your physical appearance matter? And I would say more than appearance, demeanor. It's less about appearance, but your demeanor. Yes, I mean, unfortunately, as human beings, that's the first thing we can see, and it plays a role. So, how do you build that mindset and passion, where you are able to go into an interview in a certain way, as Bhavin said. Of course, these are also much deeper questions, Anjali and Rahuf, and we are not going to be able to do full justice to them today. I think we will touch upon them to a small extent, but we hope to continue workshops of this kind where we go deeper into some of these topics. I have one question from forum, which is and any of the panelists may please take it, which is, we talked a little bit about roles beyond teaching. Are there things that B.Ed students could be looking at, which are roles beyond teaching in the education sector, and what would be a couple of prominent ones for you?
Ravi, if I may answer that, because it's kind of very relevant to what we're doing in GEMS, and the answer is yes. And I really liked what was at the start of this forum, Rami, when you talked about the diversification of the teaching profession. That's exactly right. There are a huge amount of opportunities for teachers in the education technology sector at the moment. We ourselves are hiring teachers straight into our technology businesses. As we all know, there's been a bit of a overuse of technology for technology's sake in education. And that's probably been brought on by the pandemic and the COVID situation. And more education systems are realizing that it's the teacher that's really important from a technology kind of point of view. Yes, the teaching role may be evolving as we go forward together, but technology is there to support the teacher, not to replace the teacher. So to answer the question directly, that there are many opportunities going forward for teachers in the education technology sector. That's both bridging technology, but also helping technology companies develop solutions, develop requirements to enhance student success and support teachers in the classroom. That's a very exciting area.
Great. No, wonderful, Matt. And as we come to the sort of the close of this discussion, any quick notes of advice from each of the panelists for the students and the young teachers who are starting their careers? Maybe Bhavin, you look like you have some thoughts.
No, I want to say just one thing. It's not a marketing spiel, but education world is one sole reckoner which every teacher or a budding teacher or a teacher who want to be a serious teacher should be all-rounded develop with, because I believe teacher's role is not only that you're going to teach per se, but they also have to actively involve themselves into the politics of the nation or of the how the policies are framed. What we have seen in India is they shy away when these education policies are getting framed, and that's where you see the repercussion or the effect that it's not getting relevant, and then you see a lot of supplemental education comes in, and people have a lot of alternate education that they go through, and at the end for a household it seems a kid is doing going to the school, going to tuitions, still going into various other agencies to shape up the future. Eventually for a family, it's multifold that they have to deal with education. So this is where strongly I believe that to a student community, all-round development, reading across all the spectrum is very important, and you can anytime reach out to education world for the all-round development. Thank you very much.
And if I add to that, I mean, some of the discussions I see on the chat which we are not addressing today, right? So things like where does B.Ed fit into the overall system, B.Ed or not B.Ed, or the pay scales of different categories of teachers. I think these are the kinds of things that leading media like Education World will give inputs on. So totally resonate with what Bhavin said. Matt and Ankur,
yeah. Ramesh, I just wanted to clarify a point which Mr. Bhavin made. Yes, this is true that till now in India, the education, especially school education, was considered to be as something a social cause where teachers should not be nicely paid. And for the real education, the parents were looking towards tuition classes, coaching classes, personality development, classes, etc. But the time is rapidly changing. That's what the more important is. Now, parents and students are also understanding that when you need a good quality education, and if you are ready to spend on coaching centers, personality development centers, etc., why not spend on the school itself? And the schools are coming forward to have provide good quality of education and also pay nicely to the teachers as well. So I just want to give a message to all your community members watching us. You need not worry about the pay scales, etc. If you are a good, capable teacher, India is changing and education is taken more seriously. Parents are ready to pay their monies. Their schools are coming forward. You just need to have the right skill set to be able to deliver what is the requirement of a student. And trust me, in India also pay scales are no challenge, and you can go to the sky.
Very encouraging, Ankur. Very encouraging, and yeah, I mean, we are seeing that in some of our interactions with you recently, as you know, some of the student teachers are joining your school. So very encouraging. Matt, your parting thoughts to the audience here, and audience, please don't leave, because we have one very important announcement immediately after this, and we have a short segment on resume building, which many of you seem to be interested in. So, Matt.
I think Bhavin and Ankur raised some excellent points there. I mean, for me, it's about thinking big, Ramya. Teachers are change makers. We need, in India and beyond, a strong, passionate group of teachers to change parts of our society. And I think that's hugely exciting. And I would encourage everybody on the call and beyond, think big, become more global, do your research, as Bhavin talked about, understand the profession, get passionate about certain parts of teaching practice, and stay relevant. I think the really interesting thing about the teaching practice is, as society moves forward, so does teaching. And so often our teachers have to reinvent oneself every 2 to 3 years and update skills. And so that never, ever lose that passion for learning yourselves.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt. Those are very inspiring words. And before the panel leaves, I just want to very quickly mention that many of you might be, or some of you might be aware of Centa Teaching Professionals Olympiad, which is our annual competition for teachers. And this year we are running very specifically a track for B.Ed students. And this is in partnership with Reliance Foundation, Education World, and other partners. And as a partner to this, Bhavin, I'm going to request you to formally launch this. And I don't know what that means online, to formally launch something, but you can, yeah.
Yeah, I can just say that so virtually here's a ribbon which I've cut in, and everyone should be on the TPO as soon as possible. Look forward to it.
So B.Ed students, I mean, this is something that we've heard again and again from B.Ed students, that we are competing in the TPO against very experienced teachers, and therefore it's very difficult to win, etc. And we are now addressing this head on to say that we have the Centa TPO for B.Ed students, and all of you are welcome to participate. And in fact, a very interesting prize from, of course, there are cash awards from Reliance Foundation, and a very interesting prize from Education World is that the colleges with the maximum number of winners will be profiled in the Education World magazine. And at the moment, my colleagues have also launched a discount, for which the code is "I want discount." I think that's extremely creative, but yeah, you can go and use that code if you like, and register for centa.org/TPO-B.Ed. So that is just a quick announcement I wanted to make before before we have the panel leaving. And finally, since we are playing a very active role in teaching careers, I'm going to, after thanking the panel, invite my colleague Purvi to quickly go through a resume writing session, because one of the biggest challenges, and I think all the panelists talked about this, is that there are a lot of jobs right now on the Centa portal. But when we get applications, people don't submit resumes, or when they do submit resumes, it doesn't have relevant things mentioned. And by the time we have done the iteration on resume, the employer is like, my requirement is over, or I need to go somewhere else. So we want to give you some specific tips on resume writing for whoever is interested. And for that, we'll be handing over to Purvi. And meanwhile, thank you so much, Bhavin, Matt, and Ankur, for sparing your time. Extremely precious to have all three of you. And I see some of the comments on the chat about how much people have taken away from the session. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Ramya. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And over to you, Purvi.
Thanks a lot, Ramya. I have to say it was so interesting to listen to the panel and all the questions that the audience was sending in, and even the ones that Ramya asked the panelists. It was really insightful discussion. So thank you so much for that, Ramya. I'm sure, and we can already see it from the comments, that people found it very useful. So now we are going to go into a different section, because a lot of you have asked and requested us to give some useful tips on resume building. So that is what the next 15-20 minutes, we'll see how it goes. We won't keep you longer than 6:30, I promise. I'll try to keep it as short as possible and as relevant as possible for everyone. So thanks a lot, Ramya. Okay. Namaste and good evening, everyone. Before we start with this session, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Purvi. Prior to joining Centa, I was working as a Teach for India fellow. So I actually have 2 years of teaching experience, and I've been in a similar place that many of you might be finding yourselves in right now when you're looking for jobs, or generally as a teacher. I know the trials and tribulations that you go through, and I can totally relate. So I'll do my very best to help you out however I can, and hopefully you will find some value in today's session. Currently, I am leading recruitment at Centa as a business development associate. I also take care of a few other school-facing initiatives at Centa. And while I'm leading the recruitment service here at Centa, I have to engage with a lot of job applicants who are eagerly searching for roles at schools and at tech organizations. On the other hand, I'm also engaging with schools and different organizations who are looking to recruit teachers, right? So they might be looking to recruit teachers for teaching positions. They could be looking to recruit them for maybe a curriculum development position, or say even as a subject matter expert. So there are various types of roles that are now available. The job market is in a really good place where a lot of employers are looking to mass recruit teachers. So I think it's, and now we all know that the schools are also opening up. So a lot of schools have started hiring again, which they weren't during the last 2 years. So all over, it's a good place for teachers, for the education space. We have seen a lot of, there's been almost a boom in the edtech industry. So a lot of edtechs are also hiring teachers. And with that, of course, comes the pressure of applying for jobs and also preparing the perfect resume. Many of you were asking, oh, I want to show the recruiters that I'm confident, or that I have good teaching skills, or I have this qualification and that. And how do I do that? Well, the answer is the very first thing that you need to do is send them a resume. Now, this resume basically acts as sort of elevator pitch, so to say, on a page, or maybe you can call it your marketing or your advertisement for your own profile and qualifications and advertisement. But this is basically your entryway into any job. Piyush, if you could please have the slides on the screen. We'll just wait for a second while Piyush puts it up. Right. Thank you so much. So, I mean, of course, there are various ways in which you can approach placements. There are different places you can look at for finding jobs. There are walk-ins, there's school website, newspaper. My Centa, which is our community, which many of you might already know about or might already be on, also has a careers page where we post jobs actively, and many of the recruiters are looking for teachers. So My Centa is also, you can look for jobs on My Centa. There are other recruiting firms such as Naukri, Monster.com, and so on that you can find jobs on. LinkedIn is there. There's networking. So you could maybe someone and you could ask them to connect you to somebody who's hiring a teacher and so on. So these are various ways in which you can approach placements. Could we please move to the next slide, Piyush? Yeah. And the process is pretty straightforward. It might vary across different schools and different recruiters. For example, of course, the very first step is the application, in which you send in your resume or your CV to a school or an organization that is recruiting. The next step might be a pre-work. So a pre-work is typically an assignment which employers send to the candidates who are applying for the job to check if they have the necessary skills. Then you might have a teaching demo, a final interview, and then finally there's an HR round where you negotiate the salary and the job offer, right? What are the qualifying aspects? You need a targeted resume, of course. You need the relevant skills, a certification or degree. You might have a B.Ed degree. You might be looking for certification, for which you can come to Centa, and we'll be happy to do the certification for you. Of course, some, as you might have heard in the discussion, look for prior experience, but then again, they might also be willing to hire freshers, that is, B.Ed college students right out of college looking for jobs, and awards and recognitions if you have any. So these, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. But yes, we do at Centa offer support across all of these different aspects of the recruitment. So we will help you with, we have a resume builder on My Centa. So you can generate an automatic resume. If you go to the My Profile section, enter all your details, and then you can generate a resume. Then, of course, we help you build skills with our various courses. We can help you with a certification, so you can take up the TQ, or if you're interested in something at a higher level, maybe you could take up the school leader certification. So there are various certifications that Centa offers that you could look into. And of course, awards and recognitions. TPO, which is coming up shortly, the finals in Jan 2022, offers great awards and recognitions for teachers, not just in India, but all over the world, because it's an international teaching competition. So Centa can help you across all of these different aspects, right? But to get any job, what is the first thing you do? You send in your resume, right? And that is what we are going to be focusing on today. So how do we build our resume? I mean, we have so much to put in. We want to put in details about what degree we have, what experience we have, what skills we have. Some people even put in details about their personal details or their contact details. So there's a lot of information which just goes into your resume. How do you put all of that there, and how do you put it in a way that recruiters can look at and say, oh, I like this candidate, I think I'm going to call this person in for the next round, or I might like to interview this candidate. So in one single page, you've got to convince the employer or the recruiter that I'm a good candidate for the job, right? Piyush, if you could just go back to the slide with 6 seconds. Thank you. Now here I have a question. And like I said, I am from Teach for India, where we used to do some guessing games, right? And I'm going to do the same here. And I would love for all of you to respond in the chat. by telling me maybe what do you understand by the 6 seconds that is there on your screen. Okay, I can see a lot of comments. If any guesses are there as to what is the 6 seconds that is there on the screen? Okay, I can see a few questions coming in. I'll take up the questions later. Any guesses right now? Okay, Foram Sangvi has written, make an impression in the initial 6 seconds. Interview, okay. No, Usha, I think an interview lasts longer than 6 seconds. So, instant impression, okay, time taken to impress the resume, your impact on the employer, details in 6 areas. Okay, thank you so much for all those responses. 6-second brief why they should give us job. Okay, interesting, very interesting. Many of you are pretty close. 6 seconds is actually the time an employer spends on a resume, right? So as a recruiter, you have to go through hundreds and hundreds of profiles, like many of you said. And in the initial poll, many of you said that the competition is very high. A lot of applications come in for the same job. So you just have to, you just have 6 seconds of the recruiter's time to catch that recruiter's attention and to convince the recruiter that I am a suitable candidate for the job. So it is crucial that your resume be designed such that you can impress the the recruiter in those 6 seconds, right? So 6 seconds, you have to keep that number in mind while writing your resume, and keep that in mind as you write. Of course, you jot down what all you should put in and what all you should leave out, right? So you must put in the only essential details. Do not put in irrelevant details, and you need to put in things which the recruiter is looking for. You can't put in stuff, irrelevant stuff, which will not be of any interest to the recruiter, right? Now you might ask, okay, so what is it that the recruiter is looking for? So we will delve into that in the next few minutes, right? The other thing that I need all the teachers to understand, and as teachers, we think, oh, they would know, but it's surprising. Actually, it was surprising to me initially when I started doing this job, uh, that teachers actually don't know what is a CV and a resume. So I have two questions for you on the screen, and I would love to see some responses in the chat. Um, the question is a resume and CV the same thing, and can we use them interchangeably? Okay, Amit Anand has already written no. Thank you for that prompt answer, Amit. Anybody else who thinks maybe differently? Okay, I'm not getting any further responses, so I guess I'll go with Amit's response. Uh, yes, Amit, you're right. A resume and CV are not the same thing. Okay, a lot of times we very clearly mention in our job pages that we are looking for resumes. We even mention we are looking for single page resumes. Yet we get CVs. CVs are curriculum vitae. They are not the same as a resume. So Piyush, please move on to the next slide. Now, even before we delve into what you should put in a resume, please try and understand the difference between a resume and a CV. A resume is not the same thing as a CV. Okay, some people like Shravya has already written CV is in detail. You're right, Shravya. Piyush, can we please move on to the next slide? Okay. So a resume and a CV will be two different things. Resume is always a single page document. Okay. A resume is not more than 1 page long. So many people get this wrong. They always send in resumes with 2-3 pages, and they say, oh, but we don't have space. But you'll see a lot of blank space available. Utilize every bit of space on the page to write your resume, but always keep it restricted to 1 page. Usually, if you put in 2-3 pages, nobody bothers to go through till the last page anyway. So there's no point in writing paragraphs and paragraphs about yourself and your skills and your experience, because the recruiter will not read it and they will just discard your profile saying, oh, that's not relevant for me. A CV, on the other hand, can be longer than one page. It is typically multiple pages. Resume, while it's a short summary of your education, experience, and skills, so it just tells the recruiter what they want to know, which is what your education is, what your degrees are, qualifications are, how many years of experience you have, what experience you have had, is it relevant for the current role, and so on, and the skills that you have. CV, on the other hand, is longer, it is more detailed, and it will tell, it can go into a lot of detail, like even research that the person has done, or they can even talk about the skills and how they acquired them, and so on. Resume is used broadly across all industries. So you can send in a resume for teaching jobs, you can send it in for maybe an engineering role that you're applying to, or research, or you could send it even if you're applying as a shopkeeper in some. I have actually sent in resume to apply for a job in a shop. So you can use it across sectors. It doesn't have to be restricted to the academic or education space. CV, mostly it is used in academia, in scientific or research positions. So always keep this difference in mind. When you're asked for a resume, send in a resume, a single page resume. Please do not write 2-3 pages long resumes. Nobody reads that. So now, having covered that, let's focus on resumes. Today's session is going to be all about resumes. And now we'll come to the very, very important part, which is what you should put into a resume, right? And then we'll close off by seeing a few sample resumes. And hopefully that will give you a good idea as to what you can put into your resume. So first of all, what should you include in your resume? Now, given that you have limited space, very limited time, only 6 seconds, what are you going to put into your resume? Should you put in your photograph and your personal details? You could, but it is generally suggested not to, because it's going to eat up valuable space and it's not that important. If you do put in a photograph, please do not put in selfies, because it does not look professional. As a teacher, you want to look dignified, you want to look professional, you want to look competent. You do not want to put in a selfie. Even though you might look very pretty in the selfie, as I'm sure all the teachers do, but do not put in selfies. Keep it for your social media posts. Personal details, whether you have a family and all, or maybe your date of birth, you could again put those things in, but they might eat up space. So it is recommended that you leave it out. And when putting in the personal details, please don't put in frivolous details regarding your hobby or your interest unless you have some space to fill out. You should put in details which might be relevant to the employer. For example, some jobs do have an age criteria, and in that case, you can put in your date of birth, right? But it's generally recommended to not go into personal details, because anyway, if the employer likes your profile, they will cover all those details in the interview sessions, right? So try and not cover that. But what you must put in, and you must pay especially close attention to, is your contact details. Contact details will include your phone number and email ID as a must. Whether you want to put in your address or not is up to you. Do not put in your detailed address if you don't want to, but it's always useful to mention the city, the state, and the area that you live in, because, of course, you'll be looking for jobs in that area. So mention that you are based in a certain area, and if you're open to relocation, you can mention that also. So employers, if you are applying to a job, if I'm living in Bangalore and I apply to a job in Jamshedpur, employers in Jamshedpur should know that, okay, if we hire her, she will move to Jamshedpur and do the role here, right? So you can put that, okay, I'm open to relocation, but it's always useful, yeah, to mention your location, and not your detailed location always, but at least your city, state, country, and so on. Also, make sure that you read Your contact details, you proofread it, because a lot of times you put in the incorrect details, and a phone number, even if you change a single digit, can be incorrect, and then the employer, if they even want to hire you, will not be able to contact you. And if they're not able to contact you, you obviously won't get the job. So please make sure that you put in the contact details correctly. Proofread it, read it 2 times, 10 times, 100 times if you need to. Make sure that these details are correct, right? Then the next thing that should come immediately below your contact details is your professional experience. Okay, not your skills, not your hobbies, not your interests and the awards that you've won, but you should put in the relevant professional experience that you have. If you're a fresher, then maybe you can replace this with your educational background, right? But if you're not a fresher, even if you have a few years of experience, put in your professional experience. Mention the organization that you worked with. Mention since when to when did you work there. For example, if I worked with Centa from June 2021 to July 2022, I will write June 2021 to July 2022. Or maybe you could write 21 to 22. Up to you, but mention from when to when you have worked with the organization. Mention the position that you held over there. Okay, so for example, if I was a fellow before joining Centa, I will mention that I was a Teach for India fellow from 2019 to 2021. Then I will write my role as a fellow, as a teaching fellow. So use keywords such as maybe a teaching fellow, or maybe you can mention a teacher or a headmistress or a principal or a vice principal or academic coordinator. Whatever role that you have held at the organization, mention that. And after that, if you have some specific achievements that you'd like to talk about at your previous organization, you can mention that. But keep it very short, very succinct. You need to keep it to the point so that at one glance, the recruiter gets to know all about your your professional experience, right? And then, of course, you can put in details of your academic training, which will be your education, your B.Ed degree, your master's, or whatever other qualifications you have. Again, put in the university name, the year when you attended that university, and maybe what grade you got. If you have place, you can mention what are the different subjects you studied and what is it that you graduated in doing. So all of these details can be put under academic training. And skills and achievements, again, keep it brief, keep it to the point, tailor it to the role. So if you have some achievement in essay writing, maybe that would be useful for a content writing job. But an essay writing would not really be suitable if you were applying to a role which is not related to academia or teaching, right? So keep those achievements also relevant to the job that you're applying for. Maybe if you're skilled in carpentry and you've won some prize there, no point in putting that up unless you're applying for a skill building role as a carpenter, right? So keep it very relevant to the job that you're applying to. Next, I'll just quickly walk you through a few key pointers that you must keep in mind. So always put your professional and educational background at the very top of your resume, because that's the first thing that employers look for when going through any resume, right? If you're mentioning skills, do not put 10, 15 skills just to show how skilled you are. Nobody thinks you're super skilled if you've listed 100 different things. No, put in the 5 top skills that you have, and please use professional words, or keywords rather, such as, instead of writing that you're creative, it would be preferable if you write creative thinking as a skill. Creative is more of a quality. Hardworking is not a skill, so please do not put that down as a skill. Patience, however, is a skill that you develop as teachers. That is actually something I worked on as a teacher. So maybe patience can be put as a skill, but hardworking is not a skill. So please make sure that you're using relevant keywords. If necessary, go on Google and search for keywords to put in resumes. You will get a list of them. In fact, soon the Centa team will also be putting out some resources that you can use. We'll curate some resources for all of you, and hopefully you'll find that useful while writing your resume. So use keywords. Do not just put in anything for the sake of increasing the word count. That's not going to help you. The third point is formatting. I know I'm going through a lot and a lot of information and at a pretty fast rate, but we are already nearing the 6:30 mark, so I want to quickly wrap it up. So the formatting, of course, a lot of people, they send in resumes which are badly formatted. The text is all off, the font size is off. And I mean, it's like receiving that child's notebook, who writes a very dirty homework and sends it. They do their work, but it's not done in a way that's appealing. So make sure that, I know none of us are graphic designers here, but just try and put it in a clean and neat way so that the employer is able to read it properly. Make sure you always, while sending in your resume, it should be in a PDF format. You have some online tools which can convert the Word docs into PDF, so use those. Rename it with your own name. Do not write resume. We receive hundreds of resumes every day, so always name the file with your own name. Always proofread your resumes. You won't believe the number of people who send in resumes with bad grammatical errors, spelling errors, and that just sets off a very, very, very bad impression on the employer, and they straight up reject the applicant. So please do read your resume before sending it in. Get your friends, your family members to read it before you send it in. You'd use the sorry use word check and Grammarly, these kind of softwares which are available to check your English and your grammar online, and make sure that there are no errors in your resume, right? No lies. I think one of the panelists mentioned, please be honest in your resume. You're not going to help anyone by exaggerating your achievements. And I know we kind of tend to do that at times, but please just be very, very honest. Achievements and extracurriculars, please only put it if it's very relevant and necessary. So with that, I'll just quickly end this bit on resume. We can have more detailed sessions for all of you if you like. And for that, I mean, of course, this is a very, very important topic, and I know I've gone through it very quickly. But please make sure that you work on these points. And like I said before, we'll soon put out some curated resources on my Centa platform that all of you can use to build your resume. Very quickly now, over the next couple of slides, I'll give you a glimpse of what a proper resume should look like. Piyush, if you could please move to the next slide. Thank you, Piyush. So over here, you've got, this is a website called dayjob.com where you can go and see some templates. And this is a resume of some teacher that you can see. It looks very neat. You have the contact information and professional qualifications on the left side with the photo, a very professional looking photograph of the teacher. And on the right side, you've got the profile and the career and the skills. Moving on to the next slide, we have got the resume of one of our colleagues. Actually, I just put it up there because it really looks nice and it gives all the information in a very organized manner. So you can use a lot of different websites online that help you making your resumes. Please use these properly and then build your resume. We wish you all the very best in building your resume and your job search. To quickly close out this session, thank you everyone for joining today. We at Centa love to help all of you in making teaching an aspirational career, and we would love to help you in your professional development and growth as a teacher with all the different aspects, be it certification, recruitment, or courses and professional development. So please, thank you for engaging with us, and please continue to engage with us. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Have a nice evening, everyone.